And I thought it was going to be, welcome to the live event, everybody. This is Rob Nelson with Jonas Stenstrom. Jonas, would you like to peek in over here?
I am here as well. I literally just got in 5 minutes ago.
He did.
I got here. So if I look like a mess, it's because I just got off the airplane.
I brought Jonas in and I said, you need a glass of wine. So he's got his and I've got mine, and we're going to answer questions on this live event. It's Please Stand By. Mike, thanks for joining us. And Joanna, who is some of our amazing patrons. First of all, this went out to our patrons, who I'm all appreciating the work that you guys do. So big kudos for that. What we're going to be talking about is anything you want to talk about. But in the meantime, we're also going to be, I have a list of things that I would have told my younger self. And I told Jonas about this right before he got on the plane, and he had no sleep. So I don't think he got to today. So anyway, first of all, it's great to see all of you on here. More people are going to be tuning in. And so we're just going to keep this going as smoothly as possible. And we see your comments and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So should we start with just a couple of housekeeping things?
Housekeeping, yeah.
Here's the housekeeping.
Just start me off, yeah.
Here's the housekeeping. Jonas, where have you been? People want to know.
In the last.
I told everybody Jonas hasn't made a video since June 12th. I looked it up, which is actually over 2 months.
I got a long answer and a short answer. I think I'm going to go for the short answer. I'm right now trying to finish up this documentary that Rob and I have been working on last year primarily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because, you know, this ties a lot with the last topic that you had talking about how to deal with clients. Because
you realize George is also.
Yeah, no. I mean, but it's like, you know, the whole idea of
I see your message. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the whole idea of trying to meet expectations from everybody. Yes. And this is when you're working on someone else's kind of pet project, and you got to make sure that they get everything out of it that they want. And right now, this is a video that has a lot of stories, a lot of side stories, and a lot of there's a lot of passion behind it. And I think we're trying to fulfill that, and it's taken a lot of my time.
So we're making a feature-length documentary about the Driftless region, which is this cool region in Wisconsin, which we got an Emmy for last time. Actually, Jonas wasn't a part of it, so he wants his Emmy now. So that's, you know, we've got to get that. But yeah, working with clients is always tricky. So what would you have told your younger self about working with clients? Just to spin it back to our topic. What do you think?
When we started off, anyone who came up with an idea, I jumped on the bandwagon in like an instant. And I'm like, we're going to make this the greatest thing ever. I remember we were at a film festival when we first started off in 2006, and there was this one lady who came up to me, and we started talking, and turns out she had a lot of footage, and she talked as if she had a lot of connections, and she was like totally into the industry, and she can make a lot of money. And she was like, as soon as we became friends, she was like, guys, we're going to be millionaires. This is going to be great because I have this great project, and you know what? This is when it starts. We're gonna be millionaires. And I'm like, yeah, let's jump on this. Let's do it. We got this, Rob. We're right in. And like I think if I was to tell myself, if I was to talk to myself from that time, then I would probably be, you know, you gotta
more skeptical.
A little bit. Like
you turned out to be a drug dealer.
Well, not. I don't want to. I never want to tell anyone to be skeptical in a way that they turn down chances or don't believe in a project. I think that's a key thing to making something successful, is that you gotta push for it and believe in it, and that you can make it happen. But at the same time, you gotta ask a few more questions and look at things from like basically taking a step out of your role and looking at it from an outsider's perspective as well. Like not you we're so passionately like, how do you explain?
So when you hear an opportunity, you can kind of not gauge whether or not you think it actually is realistic.
Like part of me wants
to
to jump on it because it's a passion project, but then also I got to tell myself, so, okay, what happens if I just take a step out of this scene and look at it from an outsider's perspective? How would I go about it then? Like, how would someone who's not connected to this project, how would they look upon my situation right now? And I think that's something that I think is really valuable, and that I've learned now, that I gotta try and look at a project from different angles before just, you know, throw all of my love and passion into it. And yeah.
I mean, that kind of relates to one of the things that
wine.
Yeah, have some wine while I chat. I mean, that obviously relates to some of my things, which is take critique. So ask people for advice and try to take critique. A very funny comment there, Mike. I know many people who've given out their social security numbers. Okay, so another housekeeping thing. Oh, by the way, just to follow up on that thing, we are going to release the documentary. The world premiere is September 25th. We're going to make a video a little bit about that. And I really want to get some of the patrons in on that, so stay tuned for that. Yeah. By the way, did you know Hugh is now a patron supporter?
Yeah, Hugh.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, by the way, Hugh. We need to chat more later. Okay. Housekeeping. This is something I didn't tell you about. But we put the wildlife video on our channel.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't.
And so this is actually something that we're trying to figure out a little bit. We realize that we have limited time, and we have 6 YouTube channels, and so we're trying to figure out whether or not we should just combine them all into 52 things, which we end up calling something slightly different, but essentially putting everything in one place, because we are people who make wildlife films and talk about the process of that. And so it really makes sense that it could live in the same place. Although it makes sense that they could live in different places. I just know that as the market evolves, it's hard for people to find all of our stuff, and I want it to be in one place.
I think this relates a little bit also to the topic of today. What would you tell
don't start 6 YouTube channels?
Definitely, like, because we had one
terrible idea.
We Rob and I had this discussion maybe, I want to say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that it was a good idea to split things up.
We did agree on that.
We did agree on that,
and we asked for advice, and people gave us that advice.
And I think looking at it more realistically, probably would have been better to not do that.
Because we can have series within the one YouTube channel, but you know, who knows? Yeah. Also, should we tell people where we're going? Just briefly, because it's not all that interesting.
Very quick.
It's kind of fun. Jonas just flew in an hour ago.
Yeah. Okay. So we're driving down to Florida tomorrow. We're gonna shoot some stuff down in Florida, and we're gonna try and post some stuff from that as well along the way, and that will eventually be a video that is also going up on the channel on a pretty interesting topic that not a whole lot of people talk about. I'm not sure if we're allowed to talk about it.
No, you can talk about it. Yeah, Emerald ash borer.
It's interesting. It's an insect that is causing a lot of issues to certain species of trees. Is basically ash trees. Yeah, ash trees. And it's taking down the trees, and it's causing a huge forest issue. And this insect is spreading and hasn't made it down to Florida yet, but they're thinking that it probably will in the near future. Sounds kind of boring when we're talking about it this way, but it's actually a really cool story.
You do a great job of making it kind of boring, yes. It actually just made it to Charlotte, which is where we're at right now, which is terrible news for me because I have a tree leaning over this studio that is an ash tree. And I have a tree leaning over my house, which is even bigger than that tree that's leaning over my house. Terrible news. Okay. So I think the other thing that I just want to, as a quick housekeeping, then we're just going to get into advice. And I see everybody's comments as they're coming in, and I'm like, I want to be like, cool, that's so cool, thank you, I really appreciate it. That is, Jonas and I have been kind of constantly looking for funding. Now, I just kind of want to be totally frank with everybody. The Patreon thing is what we're going for. That's our main mission. And the reason for that is we really feel that it's important to be able to create content for the end user. And if it's funded by the end user, you guys are holding us accountable. And I think that's really important. If we're making stuff for TV, you're actually held accountable by one person who is thinking what they think the audience wants, and it's almost always sensationalism. And that's not necessarily the way we want to go. Oftentimes, also, when we work with scientists, the information is always held at a high standard, but sometimes it can kind of dilute the engagement of the story. Also, scientists can't always afford, and almost never can afford, the information that they need to get out there. So we're trying to get out there, break the culture a little bit, because the culture is not set up to give money to filmmakers to tell these stories. So we're trying to reach out to the people who we hope will want to fund it. So that's what we're doing. But we also need to find external funding, because we've got $250 a video right now, and each video takes about it takes about a week when it's all said and done. I don't know why. And that's not a whole lot of money, but that's the first video. And then the second and third and fourth videos of the month end up dropping to like $70 to $80 a video. So all that being said, we are on path, and we're so happy you guys are supporting us. But what we're doing is also looking for external funding, like that Go for Tortoise piece. We used some of the funding to pay for a writer to help us, but we got the Jones Center to pay for the video. And so we're trying to get creative until we get things going. So we just wanted to put that out there right now.
Yep.
Was that a good housekeeping thing?
That was a long one.
So I apologize about that. Would you like to start with something you would like to tell your younger self?
Tell. I know you looked at this more than I have. Just why don't you start, and I have comments on.
I have
stuff
a lot of things.
Yeah.
List. Okay. I'm just going to kind of start from the beginning of my list. When I was younger, some things I got right, some things I got wrong. I think that one of the keys is that you need to understand this whole thing is about people. When I was in school, I kind of thought it was all about getting the grade. I would tell my younger self, it's not about the grades, even though that helps you get opportunities.
I have a lot of stories.
It's about the Oh, thank you. I know what he's going to say. It's all about the people you meet and the connections you make. So like, every single one of you who's on here, Hugh and Joanna and Mike, we actually really enjoy or have enjoyed chatting with you guys and making this connection. And I think that I would have told myself early on, remember that. It's about the people.
Yeah. Yep.
That you meet.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell them the story? You don't have to.
I'm not going to tell any stories. So Rob and I obviously met.
I was very unsocial in college.
School.
That was the issue. I would study all the time.
If put in the comments if you do want to hear some of those stories.
God.
Because I can.
There's not that many people on.
No, there's probably more people than write comments.
Well, got to save the archive. So.
What was I going to say about that? My brain is a little mush right now because I just got off the plane. I had a comment about the
that it's all about people, and they should. On a related note, Jonas and I went to school with people who are now like the heads of WWF, the head of huge companies, the heads of giant photography companies,
and big shots in National Geographic and on Discovery and some of those big networks as well.
And
BBC.
If I could have thought back as I was younger and just very consciously thought, these people that I'm in school with now at 20 years old are going to be big shots someday, because we went to pretty good schools, I would have more consciously tried to, just put effort into the relationship. So that's, I think, something useful.
Yeah.
Which Jonas has actually done really well. We've done to some degree too, or I've done to some degree. That relates to one other thing. When you pop in, that relates to one other thing that I did. So we started all of this in 2005, and one of the big things that we had was a big podcast called The Wild Classroom, and that kind of launched our career. And we had a lot of followers from The Wild Classroom, but we had no way of keeping all of our followers in touch. So we had like 70,000 people every time we download something that would like gobble it up, and it was a lot of people. And so essentially, as we moved from 2005 onwards, because we weren't keeping track of or trying to stay in touch with fans and listen to fans, we actually suffered quite a lot that people dropped off,
Mhm.
you know. And that'd be one thing that I would give as a tip for people who are young. Consciously think of that. Partly that's what we're doing now, but
And part of that relates to the fact that the market changes as well. Don't put all of your cards in one. What do you call it? All in one basket. What is that? All in the eggs in one basket.
yeah.
Because when we started, the whole social media scene didn't really exist the way it does now. And then that developed, and a lot of people kind of monetized or they built their success around that, and we missed that opportunity in the beginning. But we were on a different platform before that was really successful. But then because we kind of had everything there, and then we put everything into this big project, we dropped the chances to actually follow the market.
In 2006, we were like, YouTube is sucky. We're gonna go for Blip TV, which doesn't exist right now. So we put all of our videos on Blip TV until like 2011 or so. And then, so we had like 400 videos on Blip. When we did really well, we were like on their homepage, but then it just disappeared. But also that relates to one of my things, which is constantly evolve and learn new things. Because, that's something I think we struggle with. As we get older, you don't want change. But I think if you actively are realizing that you have to change and that things are really changing fast, then it changes your mindset as you go through, don't you think? And so I would tell people now, like, don't count on the fact that Instagram's going to be there all the time, or Facebook, or like if all of your effort is just in one platform and not kind of spread out a little bit, that kind of relates to the eggs. You know, the eggs in one basket also relates to clients. So one of the things we had done early on is we got a gig for Pearson Publishing, and we were making videos for textbooks. And I have them over here. Yeah. But we had 12 employees, and we had like $500,000 to $1 million budget a year, depending on the year. We were pumping out a lot of videos, and then overnight, like it was pretty much overnight, they said we don't have any more funding, and
the textbook industry kind of crashed as well, because they had not followed the market either. Fast enough. They didn't digitalize their stuff fast enough,
which is fine. It gave us a great opportunity though when it lasted, but we've been struggling to catch up a little bit with the online market because we had one client.
But we know all the people that are on the list here now. These all of you guys, you work with this stuff as well. So it's not like you guys are beginners in this at all. You know how to manage time, and how time is definitely something that we were pretty naive about in the beginning as well, thinking that we had all the time in the world, and then all of a sudden family and everyday life kicked in, and all of a sudden time became more valuable. And
that totally changed when you have kids. By the way, Damon Goetner just popped on. He's also a new patron, so I wanted to give a big shout out.
Yeah, Damon.
Damon, by the way, is an amazing soccer player. Damon, the one thing I remember from you when we were in school was you kicked the ball from like midfield and it went right in, like it was like right into the goal, and we all celebrated. That's the one memory I hold of you. Anyway, and now he has a huge beard, which is like his thing. You want to move on?
Yeah, no, I was going to comment on what you said, Damon, that nothing good comes easy. I think that's probably one of the things I would tell myself too, if I could chat to myself when I was just getting into this. Don't expect anything to fall in your lap, and if it happens to fall in your lap, don't expect it to happen every time. I think that's one of the biggest things. We were. Like you were just mentioning the textbook company before, we were working hard with that for a couple of years, and then thinking that we're all set, this is just going to keep on coming, everything's going to roll in and stuff. But then never make that assumption that things are just going to fall in your lap and keep on doing that for a long time. This was a big deal for us when we got this. We had a lot of fun, and it was a great time. We learned a lot in the process. We were pretty young at the time as well, but also a little bit naive, There we go. That's the Untamed Science.
Yeah. Untamed Science. We're on every chapter. Maybe your kids have this. 52% of
just put it in. Okay. Yes. So I think that's the whole thing. Like nothing is gonna be super easy, and I think maybe you guys are not thinking this because you've done this before, but I think a lot of people that get into filmmaking, a lot of people that follow us on the channel, they think that it's going to be, it's an easy. Well, they see the end product, but not the whole process behind it.
And this is actually exactly what we've had a bunch of interns, and all of our interns, they come to us, and we're doing work. This is work, major work, and they come and they're like, "Oh, Rob, I tell you what, I really just want to film in the forest, maybe go to Africa and film lions and just make pretty pictures." And I'm always like, well, good luck with that, because that is not what we do. We do give this illusion sometimes that it is just fun. But I actually think I was always addicted to the work part of things, which has helped us in the end.
We have someone, Luna, here as well. Thank you. We appreciate that comment, Luna. That's awesome. I don't know where you are. I know where many of these people, like Please Stand By and Hugh James and Johanna, but Luna, write a second comment saying where you are in the process.
And while you're doing that, because there is a delay, I'm going to bring up my second thing, and that is I really believe this now. When you find one of the best ways to make it in the world that we're in right now is look for the things that are in need, and then try to fill that niche. And it's actually something we did, I think, right when we were early on. We were biologists and we were teachers, and there was nothing online that would allow us to teach better. And so we needed to make videos so that we could teach our students. And then over time, we realized that there was a huge market for that, and that allowed us to do what we're doing right now. And that also relates to what we're doing with the how-to videos. We started to realize that so many people, friends and family, and different people that were following us online, were really gravitating towards these how-to videos. And so we decided, well, why don't we try to fill that niche as well? Because at that time, there wasn't enough. We had an intern who was wanting to learn the basics of using her camera. And so Jonas went to find all the videos for her to say, here's how to learn the basics. And we couldn't find them. And it turns out that video Jonas made to help her became our most popular video right now, DSLR basics. So
yeah,
find...
You're talking about finding the need, and I think
yeah, because so many people, like, they have in their head what they want to do, but there might not be a need, and so that's not a great recipe for success.
And I want to add on to that. This is something somewhat related, but also not exactly related. It's basically evaluating the success of the work as well is something that I would probably talk to myself about if I could chat to myself 15 years ago. Because we, looking back at it, you could look at it maybe a little bit naive, thinking that you go into this thinking that you're going to change the world, and maybe we all do in some way. But now, when there's still stuff happening. There's still stuff happening to natural places, wild places that we wanted to protect, that we wanted to share knowledge about, and we were thinking that, all right, we got to get this going, and we got to get more people on this train to share these stories, and then the rainforests are going to get protected, the oceans are going to get better, and then still today things are happening that are things are still being destroyed, and it can messes with my head quite a bit too, thinking back at it, going, are we actually making impact? Is this actually doing any good? And is it worth continuing to do this? And I think that is something that you have like a little bit of realistic view on the impact of your work. When I was younger, I did not have that. I thought that it was going to have more of a direct impact, and when we did the textbook videos, we were going to have our videos in 50% of the schools in the US, and thinking that this is going to have a direct impact and we're going to save so many wild places. And
so maybe you had an unrealistic gauge of success.
Yes, and now looking at it now, and when you still hear about all of these issues, I think maybe there's a risk that a lot of people can feel like their work has not had the impact that they wanted, because it's hard to gauge the impact when you put stuff online. But for example, stuff like this channel, when people can comment, it is a good way to actually see that there's obviously some stuff that is being viewed and liked and appreciated.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do remember that too, Damon. You know, I think that this does relate back to, this is something I've thought a lot about. You have to figure out what your gauge of success is. And for instance, if your gauge of success is have a big house and a big car, then that's a terrible gauge of success, because what happens when you get that big house and big car? Then you're going to have a midlife crisis. Or if your gauge of success is change the world, that's terrible. Or what if it was like, at this time, I don't know if you guys know Hank Green. We had a company called Eco Geeks, and he had a company called Eco Geek, and he owned the copyright on Eco Geek. And I looked at him and I was like, this guy does terrible stuff. Now he's like a god in YouTube. He has like probably 10 million subscribers or more on different things. And if our gauge was just to beat that guy, we would have been in trouble. Because even if we were successful, we would never have quite compared up to that. So anyway, that's just one thing I've kind of learned a little bit.
Yeah, gauging success is something that I would have liked to thought about more 15 years ago. Like, what is it that we are realistically trying to do, and how do we achieve that, and then how do we evaluate that, so that we don't feel like we're complete failures. You know, rainforests are still going to get cut down, you know, and it's almost like 15 years ago, we were like, we're going to fix this now. And it's still an issue, but hopefully we've had some impact on some, I don't know. This, again, I've been on a 10-hour flight.
When you feel like you're just stop.
Yeah.
And then, I would also say we did a video on depression, and one of the things I would tell my younger self is that almost every artist is going to suffer from depression at some point, and it is a very common thing. And that don't feel like you can't talk about it, and actually more than that, go get help. And I went through this a couple years back, 3 years back, and it's something you can't talk about at the time. It is a real thing. Anyway, I'm just going to end it with that, because I thought I should throw that out there. Part of my duty. What else? Oh, so how about starting a video with a company with your best friend, Jonas?
Starting a company with your best friend. So when Rob had his birthday a couple of years ago, I did a video on that. It's on the channel. But I would say, so Rob and I started doing little expeditions together.
We met in 1999.
Yeah.
So and the first expedition was 2003.
We've known each other for almost 20 years now. And we did our first expedition in 2003. And we did several after that. And I've had friends in recent years that have asked me if we're planning this trip. We're going to do this kind of extreme adventure, and we're going to be a group of we're trying to get as many people as possible to sign up. And I'm like, hold on, there's a difference between knowing someone as a friend and doing something that extreme together for a long time, when you really get to know someone. This relates to starting a company together. If you're really good friends, you're in the same soccer team, or you've gone to school together, whatever, you know each other on a certain level and you're really good friends. But then when you start working or doing something that is really extreme together, that involves stress, money, and delivery, when you got to deliver, it definitely, it brings out things brings out things that you just did not know about that person before. So you gotta. I would tell people that, you know, starting a company with a good friend is something I would probably not recommend. But
You made a video about this too, and I was like, oh my god.
yeah,
What are you saying?
but hear me out. This is I mean, it's important because I think it's something that you don't want to just throw yourself into because you happen to know the person before. You would definitely have to go into it setting standards and setting rules before, and understand that your relationship. I guess I've been lucky, you know, because it has worked out well. We started doing expeditions together, and this is before money was involved, before family was involved, anything like that. When you spend 18 hours in a tent on top of a mountain and it's raining outside and you can't go out to even pee, then you get to know each other pretty well. And I think that was a good way to start this business, because I knew that we could work together.
So you're saying you're really lucky?
Oh yeah, no, I am really
just
lucky. Officially now on a live feed, I'm saying I was really lucky. But starting a company with your best friend is something that is definitely not as easy as it may sound, I would say.
You know, I'm going to transition this in a very weird way to the next thing. I feel like you definitely have to find something that you're passionate about. That's what I would tell myself if I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, when I started, I didn't see filmmaking and this job as something that was even a viable option. And in theory, that was probably good. It wasn't really a viable option. But I took up science and I realized that I didn't like I liked learning about science and I liked telling people about science, but I didn't like doing science. And I think a lot of people maybe keep going at it, or pick something that they're not super passionate about. And then that can be a problem sometimes, because for instance, I was thinking, what happened if I won the lottery? What would I do? I would do exactly this. And I think I almost feel like I won the lottery already, because I'm getting to do this. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're passionate about what you're doing. Oh, are you passionate about this,
deep.
Jonas?
It's very deep.
Jonas is, I know. It does get tricky when you have a family, I'll say that. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't need to bring that up because our younger self doesn't have kids.
No, we can't tell them that.
No. Let's see. Let's see. I would tell myself that communicating effectively is like the thing. That is like the most important thing. Mm-hmm. I know that the story that I have is I hated English. I hated writing. And I just kind of was like, it's not that important. And I thought that learning the facts and studying for the tests was more important. And school can kind of deceive you in many ways, because it tells you that is the most important thing. But when you get into real life, you start to realize that using communication skills, both writing, verbal communication, video as a form of communication, is one of the most effective ways of convincing anybody of anything. Mm-hmm. And if I would have just told myself earlier, like, you know, don't take the English at a community college, just take it at your real college.
Interesting, yeah.
Whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah. You
have any comments on that?
No, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
You agree? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is a great one. I don't know if you're still on, Hugh, but this is a big shout out back to you. I was having a conversation the other day with my friend Hugh, who we were talking about what is the best way to make a pot. This is an old saying that probably goes back to the Welsh people of Welsh land. It's an old question. What is the best way to make a pot? Is the best way to spend a lot of time thinking about it and then make a pot? Or would you just go out and make a ton of pots and maybe eventually you make a good pot?
What are you talking about?
Hugh's going to correct. I got the story wrong. Somehow here's the thing. I have a lot of friends.
What's your point?
Who make I have a lot of friends from film school, and they make like a video every year, every other year, and they're very brainy about their videos. I make 50 to 100 videos a year. I pump these things out really fast. And I think that sometimes just doing it, not thinking about it so much, just going in and doing it can often be the best way to improve your skill in whatever the subject is. And that relates to filmmaking and photography. You know, we get so many people who like, they just don't go out and shoot and edit and
it's the best way to learn, of course.
yeah,
Crash and burn is a really important
like
lesson.
Haley and Louise, they're not watching, hopefully. No, I'm not gonna say anything bad, but it's like we haven't made that many. Our wives basically haven't made a ton of videos, but that's the best way to get better. Is just start going out and doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to be passionate about it.
I was basically saying that don't be afraid of failing, because that's a really important process in learning.
Fail hard a lot.
Yeah.
And then you'll actually get it eventually.
Yeah.
Which is number 11, perseverance. Perseverance
is key.
Is key. Yeah, that's one of the last things I had. I'm sorry, I'm just pumping through these. I'm almost all the way through mine.
Yeah.
Would you have something to add, Jonas? Since I have 19 important. And you're just adding on.
I feel good.
Okay, here's another one. This is to my science self. Business and marketing is very important. So often we forget that, especially in the world of academia, we forget that business is really just selling stuff, selling yourself. If you're in science, you have to convince people that your project is really important. Mm. If you're an artist, you have to convince people that your art is important and worthwhile. And so I would tell myself to think a little bit more about the business and marketing. We've done that a little bit more as we've progressed, but it's taken us a while. And I think we had this initial feeling of rejecting that thought at first. My dad was a business person. I'm sure Jonas's dad had a little more business sense early on too, but.
I mean, I think for anyone in this as well, I think if you want to get successful in this thinking, yeah, I saw that. There's a lot of sales in what we do, more than you would think too. I mean, there's a lot of art in this, but technically also what we're doing is selling ourselves to be able to continue what we're doing.
Right. Yeah, and that's a tricky thing, because if you're in the world that we're in, sometimes it's hard to say, talk about money, try to convince people that you're worth a lot, and convince people of the need that they should have for what you're doing. So we obviously don't do just this. We make a lot of videos. We make videos for all of the boater ed courses, the hunter ed, the archery, the snowmobile courses. We make videos for scientists. We make videos for museums and universities. And all of the time we have to like teach them and educate them what they need, much like a marketing firm would. But we're a little more attractive to those types because they feel like, because we have the science background, we understand them, we already speak the language. But essentially that's where we're at. Yeah. Anyway. Message retracted. Very, very good. I'm glad I saw that though. Okay. You read the comment. Okay, here's another one. I think one of the keys to success, I'm almost done here. One of the keys to success is learning two things. So we're filmmakers. We've learned that trade. We're also biologists. That has given us a unique niche. I think that can be for a lot of things. The first person who gave me that advice was my uncle, and he was a business person and a geologist. And so you can probably see where that led to. He became a big oil person and could like figure out what land to get and whatnot. But I think that's true for a lot of things. If you're just an artist, but you have no passion in anything else, then it's going to be hard to like find a way to separate yourself from other people, just as a simple way of doing it. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, we got about three or four more minutes, and then we're going to wrap things up. But anything else that you would like to say?
One of the things I struggled with when I was younger was trying, because this is a really interesting business right now. It's somewhat new as a job, and convincing people around me that I was trying to make this into something that we could actually do as a job and not just as a hobby was a really was tough for me when I was younger. I remember my dad, for example, saying that, you know, Jonas, you can play until you turn 30. After 30, you gotta get a real job. And luckily, just before that, we ended up getting the gig with the textbook company. So then all of a sudden, you know, wheels started turning, and people started seeing that this could actually become a real job. But I think, I don't know what I would tell myself, my youngest self, about this, but it would be something that it was always in my mind that I knew that I wanted to make this into a job, but I didn't know how, and I didn't know what I could do, or even if it was possible. But I felt that there was a niche that we could fill there. I would, if I was to talk to myself from that time, I think I was really naive when I was younger about it. I knew that we could make it, and now I look at it maybe from a different standpoint, that I probably I was going into it in a very naive way. Now I have more information about it, so I can understand my father's concern, and I think you know what I mean too, because you have. I know you've been in the same position.
And this is something that I think is a very real thing. This was actually another one I had. We got lucky early on, and I would say that you can't deny that luck happens, but I think that you have to be very prepared for when luck happens, and then it's not really just luck anymore. Like, we at that point had spent 5 years or so learning the trade, and we were able to convince the client at the time that we were the best person for the job. And so, yeah, you do need the luck, but you also have to be prepared when that happens. That's kind of the way I would say it.
Yeah.
We're going to do this again, and then I'll give you a notebook so you can write everything down. So he was on a plane
for you guys who just came on.
He didn't even sleep last night.
I haven't slept for about 30 hours. I slept 2 hours on the flight, but I literally just got off the plane. So
yeah,
I am a little bit tired. I don't know really how to.
This is my final thing, and I'll wrap it up, and you can add anything to it. So this is definitely something I've dealt with. Early on, you mentioned this. You jumped on every opportunity, and I think that,
and not just jumped on it. I literally thought that every opportunity was gonna work, and it was gonna become something.
Yeah, we don't want to get your hopes up too much, because they're gonna make you depressed. But I think that at some point, you don't want to just jump on any opportunity that gives you money. You want to selectively choose what you turn down. So as opposed to choosing what you take, select what you're going to give up. And that's a way that I kind of think of things now. Like, what do I want to give up so that I can choose the right path for me? And obviously you can't just take the best jobs early on. You're going to have to take a lot of things and like be picking the good jobs, picking the things that make you happy, picking the things that you're fulfilled with. So you're going to have to do that. But then as you keep progressing, you have to make sure that you're turning down the right things. Because we've learned to say yes to a lot of things, almost everything we say yes to.
And more importantly, learn to say no to other things. And I think that's the thing too.
Yeah. Isn't that what I just said?
Yeah. But you said, we learn to say yes to a lot of things. But it's really, like you said, it's really
learn
important.
To say no. Yeah.
And
it is.
You now, with your experience, 2 seasons on Science Channel and stuff, you know how to select out opportunities like that. I mean,
that's true. That's true. Yeah. I have a lot of compassion for hosts in general, and I don't think you can judge people so much anymore, because I have a lot of friends who become cryptozoologists, essentially. They're getting a show on finding Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or the Yeti, and that's not what they were. Biologists originally, but this show came about, and it's like, you can't say no. And I feel lucky now. I can turn down crypto shows. Can you turn down crypto shows?
Yeah, I can. Okay, but with that said, though, there's definitely a couple of shows out now where we're talking about topics that probably clip shows that.
The one we're doing next week. Are you talking about that one?
That
This is I'm going to end with this. This is from one of the shows I did recently called Man-Eating Snake. This is the skull of a reticulated python, which is known to eat people. And they convinced me that
Have eaten people, not known to eat people.
Well, it does eat people. They do eat people, but the only way they find out is when they find half-eaten people. Anyway, a snake like this can be massive, 23, 24 feet long. And when they get that big, they can eat people, especially when they're small people. Anyway, they convinced me that we were going to do a show about the power of snakes and how awesome they are. And I'm into it. I liked the series, but it ended up kind of like, the show was called Man-Eating Snake, and people were just mostly afraid of snakes afterwards.
Yeah.
That's why this Patreon is so important, because I do think there is a need to tell quality science content and teach people to make quality programming. So, gosh, man, well, we should end it there because it's about 45 minutes right now.
And Hugh needs to go to bed, I can tell.
Hugh needs to go to bed. Yeah.
Midnight here, you say? Yeah.
Midnight. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for the support, first of all. And don't ever feel like you can't reach out with questions at any time. We like helping. So.
Absolutely.
All right.
We're going to be together for the next week. So if you guys have any questions, just send them over. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys. All right. Jeez.
That was cool. That was helpful. We had a lot of people on this time.
Who was Luna?
I don't know.